Welcome back to the next video. In today's video I will show you how to use WorkManager for one-time kind of request, one-time work request to perform background operations. So if you don't know what WorkManager is, it helps us to do background processing even when your app is closed. So what I'm trying to do in this video is that I will call an API. It will fetch some data even when the app is closed, completely closed, not even in background. I will store that data in my preferences data store. Preferences data store is kind of like used to store key value data, and once that data is stored, I will open the app again, and it should be able to display whatever has been stored inside my preferences data store. So there are two things currently. What I have done is that when the app is launched, I have set an initial delay of 20 seconds so that I can completely close the app once the app is installed. Second thing is, there is no guarantee that even though for development it is running pretty fast, like as soon as I open my app and I close my app, after 20 seconds this WorkManager request is been executed, but there is no guarantee in real world cases, like once you deploy it to production, that it will immediately run after 20 seconds once your app is launched. Okay. So this is mostly used to do background operations. So if you want data immediately, you should not use WorkManager for it. You should only use for background processing, those kind of stuff. So I will install my app now. Okay, I have also opened my Logcat so that I can show you. So the app is opened. Okay, and it is displaying a default value which is present in my preferences data store. I will completely close the app. Okay, I'll go back over here. I'll remove this. I have added a log once I have picked up data from this REST API. So if you want to see, so let's see whether the data has been printed. So here you can see the data has been printed. So this is the title. Okay, so up to here is the title and this is the body. Now if you remember, I told you that I'm storing the title inside the preferences data store, right? So I will open the app again, and inside the text view you should see this. So here you can see I'm displaying it inside the toast message as well as inside my text view. Now given that I have opened the app again the WorkManager will get fired after 20 seconds. Again, this 20 seconds is only for development purpose. In real time it might take whatever time the OS feels like. It's depend on the Android OS. So yeah, let's get started. So firstly you will have to go to build.gradle.kts and you will have to add this build script because I am using Dagger Hilt for dependency injection. Next, go to build.gradle.kts over here, and here also I am using Dagger Hilt, and given that KSP is still not stable yet, I am using Kotlin capped. But if at the time of watching if KSP is stable, then you can use KSP instead of Kotlin capped. Next, over here I have added the Hilt dependency injection, Hilt dependency. So I am using this Dagger Hilt Android compiler, as well as this Hilt work is required for WorkManager. Next, I am using this work runtime as well. So this is kind of like a WorkManager dependency for Kotlin extension. Then I have also added retrofit. It is used for making API calls, and I have also added data store because I want to store that data in key value pair. But if you want, you can use room database as well if there is a list of data which you want to persist. Next, inside activity underscore main I have just a text view. Okay, and I'm just saving some data inside that text view once we get the data from preferences data store. Next, I have created a network module. So here you can see this is the base URL. So this is an open source API which we can call, and here this is a singleton component for our network module, but I am also using it for preferences data store. If you want, you can create a separate module for your preferences data. So this is for the HTTP client of our retrofit. This is for JSON converter. This is for providing retrofit instance. This is for getting the API service, and this is for providing the preferences data store. So that's what I am doing it over here. Okay, now that is done, let's go to the custom worker. So here you can see you have to mark it as @Hilt worker, and we are using @assisted injected constructor, and here we are first injecting demo API. So if you see over here, this is our demo API which we have created. So here it is just calling post/1. so it just gives us one post back. Next, here I have created the data store repository as well, so it just saves an example value as well as get an example value, but you can name it whatever you want. And here I am also hard coded the key, but if you don't want to hard code it, you can send it from inside, from the function can accept that input as well, but just for simplicity's sake I'm hard coding that. And if there is no value, I am just displaying a default value. Okay, but if you want, you can keep it as empty string as well. Next, going back to our custom worker, so here I have also injected context, worker parameters and data store repository. Next, inside the do work function, this is where the actual work happens. So here you can see we are calling the API. If the API is successful, then I'm logging it to the console, so to the logcat, and I'm also saving it to our preferences data store, and I'm giving a success callback. Otherwise I'm doing a retry in case something goes wrong. So, and this is used because suppose you are out of network, so you don't have a network on your phone, and the Android OS decided to run your work manager, then instead of failure we are again doing a retry. There is also another way, like using constraints, so that you can only run your work manager request when there is a proper network. I will show you that as well, but here in case something goes wrong, I'm just doing a retry. Otherwise I'm just logging a failure. In case of failure, it won't retry it again. Okay, then here I have already shown you the data store demo API. Now here you will have, so this is our post, so this it will contains a user ID, title and body. Next, I have defined this my application class, so you will have to mark it as @hilt_android, and you also have to use this configuration.provider. Firstly, you will have to use this @entry point @install it for Hilt worker factory entry point, and you will have to use this our custom worker provider. Okay, so which I have defined it over here. And here this is the work manager configuration, so I have set a minimum logging level as debug. You can remove this for production while deploying it to production as well. And I have set the worker factory to Hilt worker factory, which we have defined it over here. And if you see our custom worker class, it takes the demo API data source repository, and from that we are creating a worker. So I'm creating a custom worker which we had defined over here, passing the API, app context, worker parameters and data source repository. And next you will have to go to your Android manifest, make sure you add internet permission because we are calling the API. Next you also have to add this name of my application, and here you will have to add this provider tag of AndroidX.startup.initialization provider application ID AndroidX-startup. Okay, next inside main activity over here, how I'm using it I will tell you. So here I'm injecting our data source provider as well because we want to fetch our data. If you are using a view model, you can inject data source repository in your view model, but I have kept it simple. Here I have created our text view, initialized our text view over here, and here I am creating our one time request, setting any, don't set an initial delay like for production purpose. This is only for testing purposes. I've set off a back off criteria of 15 seconds. So suppose if the work does not finish in 50 seconds, then it will try after 30 seconds. If still it fails, then it try after 1 minute, something like this happens. Okay, and here I am calling build. Now here you can see I can also set constraints, so you can use something like run this worker only when the network type is of connected. There are different types as well for not just for network type, but if you see over here, you can see all this kind of things which you can do. So like if you want to set a different type of constraints like dot set, so here you can see requires charging, requires battery not low. So it's good practice to add this constraints, depends on you. If you add this, you have to uncomment this. And here you can see I'm enqueuing our work request, which means like we are telling okay, whenever the OS feels like run this work request. And here I am just calling the retrieve data once the app is launched. So we are just fetching the data from our data store, and if there is data, I'm just printing, like displaying it inside our text view. So that's it. Next I'm also going to make a video on expedited work as well as periodic work request. So do look out for that.